Okay. All right. Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to our Lunar New Year little chat. We have a few guests here, all the Asian knitters of Instagram, I feel like. My name is Geraldine. I am the founder of The Wandering Flock, and we're here to chat about Lunar New Year and its significance to all of us. So first off, we're going to go around each little square box, I guess, and introduce everyone, starting with Angela.
How about starting with you?
Oh, right.
Yes.
We should start with me, isn't it? Well, I'm Geraldine. I'm originally from Singapore, and I'm of Peranakan heritage in Singapore, and that's Straits-born Chinese. It's a little different in a sense. Those from like Southeast Asia would probably know what that is, but basically means like long time ago, like multi-generations ago, someone from China, mostly a man, married a local lady, or not necessarily always the case, but so we follow all the Chinese traditions, but at home we actually eat a lot of local cuisine, or a mishmash of Chinese and local cuisine. So there's a lot of like curries. When you go to a Malaysian restaurant, a lot of dishes actually come from the Peranakan cuisine family. So that's a little different. So we celebrate Chinese New Year a little differently in Singapore. And obviously it's people of Chinese heritage in Singapore who celebrates Lunar New Year. But that being said, I'm really excited to hear from everyone. I'm assuming most people are following us so they know I'm from the Wandering Flock. But I thought of doing this originally to really showcase the diversity of this holiday, and the diversity within Asian culture. I think growing up in Singapore, I was always a majority, and then coming to America, I realized that everyone who's Asians gets grouped together, and sort of loses this whole, like, it's overgeneralization, which I actually hate the word Asian, because you're talking about many countries here, so many, and all different languages, all different cultures. So I was hoping this little chat about Lunar New Year could showcase a little more of our diversity and how unique each one of us are. So that's the whole story behind this. But I want to send it off to the next person before we keep going, and then we'll come back to me again, I'm sure. So Angela.
Hi, I'm Angela Tong, originally from Boston, born there, and left for college. So then New York, New Jersey, and now Pennsylvania. And my parents are both from Hong Kong. My mom is born and raised in Hong Kong, and my dad is from China, from the Guangdong region. And the village he's from is from Toisan. So a lot of our food that I grew up eating has that influence on it. My mom learned after marrying into the family to make a lot of the Toisan dishes. And yeah, Chinese New Year is huge for us. And my mom, I think, growing up, made a big deal out of it. And I was just thinking about you asking about our favorite dishes and what was the tradition and stuff. And it had always I think one of the things that stands out to me was the chicken. Had to be a fresh chicken, because used to be able to get that in Chinatown in Boston. You used to go with her. It's, you pick out the chicken you want and you come back later, and it's all butchered and cleaned for you. But it had to have a head on. It had to be the whole chicken, right? Like no parts. So I remember her always making the chicken, which is, and I remember her putting it at the altar, and we all had to bow, or sometimes at the front door. She would put it out there and we would bow towards it. And everything had to be whole. So fishes, a fresh steamed fish, no frozen. I think for a long time, I don't think I knew that fishes came in fillets. because she would never buy fish from an American market. Like everything was, she went to the Chinese market to buy live fish, so everything was always whole. So I think I grew up always eating things, not cut up and not packaged. Until much later on, I think she adapted a lot of the American convenience. So I remember always washing everything and cleaning everything before the new year, and her decorating stuff. And I think yesterday we were talking about the fatgo, the cakes, the Chinese steamed cakes. And it's funny, the conversation I was having with my family now, and she used it as decoration. She would go to Chinatown and buy a box of it, and it always decorated the whole house. And we couldn't eat them. She never let us eat them. I don't know why. She used it for decoration, and they would just sit there and get hard and get moldy. But she was like, "That's good, Fatima, mold in Chinese." So you want it to be like start molding, and I was like, "Oh," but as an adult, I started eating. I'm like, it's delicious. Why did she buy extra for us? I'm so disappointed I never got to eat it, but it was just decoration. So that was really funny. That was a story that I was telling my own kids. I'm like, we never got to eat this. That was just decoration. Grandma never let us have it. So yeah, that's just some of our traditions and my favorite things I remember too.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna hand it off to Chris. We're gonna go to traditions a little shortly. But Chris, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Chris, or Chris Ho from the Slithering Stitch. I did not think about the alliteration when I did that and how hard it would be to say. I've actually never said it out loud until now. Should have thought that out a little bit better, but I'm Slithering Stitch. I'm first.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
No, I was just trying to repeat it myself.
I might redo that now that I've said it out loud. But I'm first gen Vietnamese American. My dad is from Saigon, which is now Ho Chi Minh City. But if you're Southern Vietnamese, you would rather die than admit that. And my mom is from a little coastal town called Nha Trang, which is like known for really beautiful white sandy beaches. If you ever have a chance to vacation, I'd highly recommend it. I'm based in Sacramento, and I knit and crochet. Sorry, you're on mute, Geraldine.
I just said awesome. And I'm going to hand it over to Jen. If you could just give us a little intro of yourself.
Hi, everybody, and thank you, Geraldine, for bringing us together. I am Jen Peck of Websterstreetknittery. That's my Instagram. I design knitting patterns, mostly accessories, and venturing into garments. I'm based in San Francisco, but I grew up on the East Coast outside Philadelphia and spent most of my 20s into my 30s in New York City before moving to San Francisco about 7 years ago. I'm also first generation. I was born in Philadelphia and grew up around that area. And I think, my family's from China and Taiwan. So we do celebrate Lunar New Year in the Chinese sort of Taiwanese tradition. And I'm excited to share what we're doing what I'm doing in my family now with my kids.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And Tiffany, if you could share a little bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Tiffany. My Instagram is made at Linden, and I also design knitwear. And I grew up in California. And so I did the opposite journey of Jen, and then I moved to Boston for grad school and stayed on afterwards there. So I'm currently based in Boston, but my flight got delayed. So I'm still here because I was lucky enough to spend Lunar New Year with my family, since it's a big deal for our family to be able to celebrate together.
Awesome. And Tina, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, my name is Tina Tse of Tina.Say.Knits on Instagram. I'm a hand knitting pattern designer, but I also machine knit, and my career profession is actually in industrial knitting machine programming. So knitting is literally my world. I do knitting everywhere. So that's how I got into this community. I'm first generation Chinese American. My parents are both from southern China in the Guangdong province. My dad is from a little bit near Toisan. It's called Hoi Ping, and the dialects are a little bit similar. I think they say it's called Say Up, which is like the dialect of the whole region, but like then the villages have their own version of the dialect too, which has been very, very interesting to learn about with my dad, but also really hard to understand whether or not he's speaking that dialect or Cantonese, because he just said, I just spent Lunar New Year with them in New Jersey. And he's like, I don't know if I'm saying this in Cantonese or say up. And I'm like, ah, crap. So I've been learning stuff that I probably do not know if it's Cantonese or say up. And I'm just gonna, people can understand me, so it's fine. What else? I'm originally from New York. I was born in Queens. I moved to New Jersey for middle school and high school, and then I moved back to New York for college and the beginning of my fashion industry career. And then I moved to Michigan, now a little bit outside of Detroit, for another job doing technical textiles for sporting goods. So that's why I'm in the Midwest now, which is a little change of pace from New York City. But I'm really liking here, and I'm excited to keep kind of exposing everyone to our cultures.
Yeah, I think that's something I realized that I want to do more of this year, especially since giving birth to my son last year. I realized that I now live in a country where I am a minority, and if I don't speak up and stand, sort of represent, we don't get heard. And it's definitely a change for me because I grew up as a majority for a lot of my life, so it never occurred to me that I had to speak up. So being Chinese in Singapore is like being a white person in America. You are the preferred majority, and well, I don't think there are like huge race issues like there are in America, in Singapore. I think moving to America and learning to be a minority has been a huge wake-up call for me, especially in the last few years. And I hope that we'll be able to represent our cultures better moving forward, really. But let's get to the fun stuff. Let's talk about Lunar New Year, because I think it was my favorite holiday growing up as a kid. And I don't know if any of you feel that way. Even though we were Christians, we're Catholic, and we celebrated Christmas, and you get Christmas presents. And so we always had Christmas. But I think my favorite holiday as a kid was always Lunar New Year. Sorry, I want to keep calling it Lunar New Year now. I'm going to consciously make that effort. Because it was always about like family and visiting a lot of people, and all the good food that you get to eat during the season. And I know this sounds really greedy, but like as a kid, it was definitely the red packets that was the driver of the holiday. I don't know if you guys feel that way. So those of you who don't know what Lunar New Year is, during Lunar New Year, kids or unmarried people, I guess is the real tradition, get handed out little red envelopes, and these little red envelopes have money in them. And so as a kid, it was like the best thing, because like you're not doing anything. All you're going around is saying Happy New Year and you get money. So I'm gonna confess that was my favorite part of the holiday. I'm gonna ask you guys what's your favorite part of the holiday, but definitely I think money as a kid was my favorite part of the holiday. See, I just mute myself. I meant to go Angela. What's your favorite? We're gonna go in the same order, okay? We're gonna go Angela, Chris, Jen, Tiffany, Tina, because you guys are kind of like in a circle for me. So, Angela, what's your favorite part of the holiday?
I mean, let's be honest, it was the money, right? Unless, well, my husband said that he never got to keep the money. So he was like, what's the point? His mom always took it back, like, I'm saving it for you. So we got to keep it. My family, we got to keep it. So I think you're right. Like, it's the lycée, the red, the hongbao, the red envelopes is definitely was, yes, because seriously, we would go visit all our relatives and, you know, go hit bak choy, and then you get money. So yeah, money. And then of course, visiting everybody and getting to see everybody. So that's, yeah, I would have to say that. You don't have to be greedy, you know.
I know. I mean, as a kid, free money for candy is like amazing. Chris, what is your favorite part? Do you guys get envelopes? So
yeah. So it's Lisi for us, and definitely. So I don't know if this is specific to my family or to the. I think so much of it is familial, like the things that you create for your family, which I think Jen was alluding to. But we are actually, it's actually unlucky to spend the money. So you could keep the money, but like that money was to bring in good fortune for the new year. So spending it is actually really unlucky. So I never spent it. So I had like, I mean, by the time I graduated from high school, I had so much money because you never got to spend it. So I love the lycée. And then the other thing in Vietnamese tradition, I know specifically, it might be this way in other cultures too, is you don't just have to say Happy New Year. You also have to traditionally wish things for your family and for your elders. And so you basically can personalize, like the normal ones are like good health, wealth, prosperity. Like the very traditional one in Vietnamese is Tình Bon Như Nước, which literally means for the money to flow in like water. And so you wish those things.
That.
I would do funny ones all the time. I would like, to my grandpa, I would do like silly ones. Like, I wish that you have really bad gas this year, and like just funny, silly things. So outside of the money, which I loved, despite not being able to spend, it was cool to have it. Oh, and the $2 bills, because you never, I don't know if everybody does $2 bills, but
$2 bills.
Yeah. So it's, and I think it has to be wider than just Vietnamese culture, because if you go to the bank around Lunar New Year, they print extra fresh $2 bills. And I had such a fun time this year going to get Lisi for all of like my nephews and nieces. And I got like a whole stack of like fresh, crisp $2 ones. And they're supposed to be lucky, I think. I don't know why they're a thing though. But yeah, that was like, I think everybody loves the red envelopes for sure.
Wait, does anyone know why it's $2 bills?
I mean, I think in like American culture, they're lucky because they're not in circulation. They're not really widely used as common as a dollar bill or $5 bill. Like when I just remember growing up, like a $2 bill was like such a novelty, like the tooth fairy would bring it, you know, or like you'd get it in your hongbao. Chris, it's really interesting. One of my good friends here is Vietnamese and she has children, and we were talking about our Lunar New Year traditions last night. And she actually, we had our kids exchange red envelopes from us, and she had gotten a stack of $2 bills, and they have to be new, like everything on the new year, you know, new clothes, new dollar bills, it has to be fresh, right? Yeah. But I don't know if it is specifically Vietnamese, because that was what she did in her family growing up as well.
Yeah, the new clothes is like a big thing too. So is that the same in Chinese culture too? Yeah, so like new clothes bring in the new year, you want it to be like new and fresh. But I think that's an interesting point about like the American culture and Vietnamese culture kind of fusing, because we're here and they are special in American culture. And that was another point I wanted to make sure to make, is a lot of Vietnamese Lunar New Year traditions come from Chinese New Year traditions because of China's colonization of Vietnam. So it's like you can't really separate them because we took so much from Chinese culture as well.
That's interesting. Sorry.
Oh,
Jen, you want to go?
I think it's interesting too, how various cultures, whether, you know, here you could have a Vietnamese parent and a Chinese parent, and they bring each of their families' traditions into their new blended family, and how all of the things, it becomes a family tradition that's specific to sort of each individual family versus to each individual culture as a whole.
I definitely agree with that. I think Lunar New Year, it has changed for me in the sense that like you can create your own traditions versus actually having to follow every tradition. And I don't think my family ever we ever knew all the real like traditions. We just did like what was trendy or what was happening then. And I think every country or everywhere you are definitely celebrates it a little differently. So it's really nice to hear. I guess for me, I love to hear how everyone does it and the different ways and similar ways we actually do things. And definitely new clothes was a huge thing. So growing up, my mom would always get us new pajamas. I don't know if anyone did that. Like, so she would get us all new pajamas. And so you woke up, like you wear the new pajamas to sleep on like Lunar New Year's Eve. So you woke up in new clothes because you're like supposed to have new clothes, right? So like, I don't know if that's a thing that she just invented. But so this year I bought like new pajamas for my son and his cousins. And we're actually here in Florida right now visiting my in-laws. So I'm not actually in New York right now. But who else got new clothes? And like, was that something exciting for you guys? Tiffany?
Yeah, we also got new clothes, and that might be one of like my favorite parts of like Lunar New Year is like the next day when you get to wear new clothes. And also I like to dress up in like the traditional Chinese clothes and then get like our photo, like get a family photo taken. And I always liked just like trying on the like different, it would be like silk and like different than what you would normally wear. So it was like fun and special. And you don't normally get to like wear it normally. So I think as a child, that was like fun.
I see that you're wearing.
Yeah.
Are you wearing
I'm wearing one.
outfit?
This one, yeah. This one, because we normally wear red for Lunar New Year.
Yes,
and then
that's
this
right.
one is like a cheap Ho, which is like a Chong Sam, I think. And then this is my grandma's, and so like she gave it to me, and so like I'm the only one that fits it, so I get it. But I like it because it's like red, and so it's like an appropriate one to wear for Lunar New Year. And I feel like more connected to her because I'm able to wear it.
That's I don't think I could fit anything. My grandma was very tiny, and like her waist was like this big. I don't know. I definitely couldn't fit into anything. But yeah, is everyone's traditional garb like red usually? I don't know. In Vietnam, is it usually red too, or
red or yellow? So like Vietnamese wedding ao dai is red. So
okay.
The man and woman both wear red at the wedding. So you will see red, or you see like a lot of the kids wear yellow, but I don't know if there's like a specific one that you're supposed to wear.
So because we're straight born Chinese and we're Peranakan, so we actually like our traditional garb, which we do wear. I don't wear it. Like these days, nobody wears it. But back in the day, like in my grandma and maybe my mom's time, like they would wear a sarong kabaya, which is actually the same, similar, similar traditional wear, like as Indonesians. So it's actually like this lacy, very see-through, like sort of little jacket and with a sarong. I don't know if you guys know what a sarong is, but it's basically a giant cloth that you wrap around your like wrap skirt, I guess. So we didn't actually wear a chi pao. You would wear a sarong kabaya. I guess I don't have any of that right now, but my grandma had lots of that growing up, and they were always like handmade and hand embroidered and like beaded slippers that she also made herself. Yeah, so it was very elaborate. But these days, I think in Singapore, you just wear like really bright colors or like mostly red. You would always avoid black, I think. I don't know if that's the same in everyone else's culture.
So I was gonna say too, my mom would always tell us, you don't have to buy new clothes, but you cannot wear black and you have to wear bright colors. So it could be bright blue, it could be red, pink, all of that stuff, but no black at all, or white.
Oh yeah, no white either.
Yeah.
Why is it no white? Is it because that is like
funeral colors?
Funeral colors.
Oh, right.
And
Okay.
navy was a no because that's another funeral color, navy and white. So they would be gasping. Oh my gosh!
So I'm wearing a white t-shirt for
Yeah.
I had on a black t-shirt earlier and I switched it to white.
I realized this year I actually don't own anything red. Like I don't buy red clothes. It's not.
I don't either.
I don't either.
color.
I
It's
only made one. This is the only red I own.
I know, Tina, you have a Lunar New Year design. You have to at least show it off.
Yeah, show it.
Yeah, show, please.
Ooh, and gold colors too. Nice.
Red and go.
I love that.
Yeah, it's based off of the gourd, the double gourd shape, to also symbolize all like the eights as well, because you know Chinese people love their wealth, and Lunar New Year is all about getting rich and getting wealthy and good fortune. So my dad actually, when I was actually finishing this up while at their place for Lunar New Year, and my dad was like, "Are those wulos like gourds?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was so glad you could see that. So that was actually a highlight of my trip, because you could actually see that I was actually designing something based on our culture, and he was very like kind of proud of it.
That's really sweet to hear. That's really nice. I mean, the thing about like I don't know, everyone lives like far away from their families, unlike before, I guess, like back in the like day, you know, everyone lives in the same village or same town, or you know, are all neighbors. But these days, like everyone travels everywhere for a holiday, I feel, because most people are living in like different places. But I guess, so what was like, do you have a way that the day starts for you guys during Lunar New Year? So for me, my mom would always make like long life noodles, or I think they're called mi sua, somen, I think. And they would always be in a sweet broth. I don't know why. It was always in a sugar broth, and we had one boiled egg, and that was the breakfast. And I asked my mom why we did that, and she said, "Oh, well, you know, you want to start the year sweet, and it's like long life, and like it's usually a very clean breakfast because, you know, you want to start like simple, like it has to be vegetarian or something like that." So I'm not sure why, but like, does anyone else do that? Like, do you guys eat like long life noodles? I know we eat the same noodles on our birthdays as well.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say we eat mostly vegetarian, and it's like for purity is supposed to be the reason. So to go into the new year as pure as possible, you try to keep it vegetarian. So that's one thing. We don't have the noodles. We eat noodles, but I don't know if they're a special kind of noodle.
What about the rest of you guys? Do you have a special breakfast for Lunar New Year?
I don't know if it's breakfast, but we kind of cook throughout the entire day. So I actually got up with my mom got up at like, I don't know, 6 a.m. and I got up at like 7:30 in the morning just to like help her out a little bit. But we make this is something that my grandmother passed down to everyone. And since my mom married into the family, she had to learn how to do it too. We made these dough balls, kind of dough balls. I've been looking it up online and I can't find the one my family makes, but they're called jin doi in Chinese, in Cantonese. And I asked my dad, like, why do we make this? And apparently there's this phrase in Chinese, it's like, lin man jin doi yan yao ngo yao. So it's kind of like the homophone or the word sounding similar to if you provide for others, then you provide for yourself, kind of. So it's a way to start the new year with kind of like abundance, just like being able to have enough and then being able to have enough for others to be able to provide. So I thought that was fun, but it's something my mom and I cannot seem to figure out yet because they are so dense. And my grandmother made them so fluffy. And now that she's passed, my mom and I have to like figure it out. But I think we can. But yeah, that's something that we do first thing in the morning. It's actually first thing in the morning on New Year's Eve. So not the New Year's Day, but we cook like for 2 days straight, obviously, to make all the meals. But yeah, that's
Does it have a filling?
The ones we make does not have a filling, but my grandmother also made a version that did have a filling. But the one that we like is the one that is like hollow. It kind of fluffs out in the middle.
We made it this year because my sister asked my dad what he misses from his childhood New Year, and he said jing dui. And so she found a recipe, and then we made it this year, and we did black sesame and red bean ones, and they did puff up. So I'll send you the recipe, Tina.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you kind of have to like keep pushing them down until they start like becoming bigger. So they start out kind of like smaller. And then they expand.
Ours just stayed small.
So I don't know what jintoi is. Is it like
sesame balls?
Sesame
You
ball.
cover them and like sesame, and like jing is like gold. So it's like a gold pile. Dui is like pile. And these like golden balls. This is our first time we attempted to make them.
My family only puts the sesame right in the center. They don't cover the whole thing.
Oh,
So that's why when I Google it, I can't find the ones that they make because everyone else's has sesame all over the dough.
Yeah.
And ours is just in the center, like just like a couple of speckles right in the middle.
Oh, that's very unique.
Yeah.
That is very unique. But the coating is like you put like you wet it and then you coat it in the sesame. So that's actually the last step before you fry it. So you could just not do that part and try, maybe.
Wow.
But I think it's harder because like the sesame is like a hard crust around it. So I think that might help. So I feel like yours might be more challenging to make.
Oh, great. Of course, grandma.
Jen and Angela, so you guys have kids, right? And have you guys started like new traditions, like or carry on traditions from your family?
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like having kids has made me actually bring a lot of the tradition in the family because I don't want them not to. I mean, growing up here, and especially we're not around family, so we don't get to experience a lot of the traditions. So I think I'm afraid of them not knowing. So I think like this year I really brought it on this year, because they were like, oh mommy, you went all out this year. I just, as they're getting older, I just, so they can remember and to know. So I've been trying to tell them traditions and then the food. So like the day of the new year, you're supposed to eat vegetarian, like jai. So I made jai. So it's like glass noodles, and you can, apparently there are 18 ingredients, and you don't have to do 18, but the more the better, the more lucky. So I mean, I didn't count, but I did mushrooms and bean curd sticks and as many things I could find. So yeah, I do find. So yeah, like I think Jen was talking about doing, really teaching this tradition to our kids to try to have them remember it and know where they come from, right, Jen?
Definitely. And, my kids are both Chinese, Taiwanese, and Jewish. So we are trying to give them, make them aware of what their cultures are, both backgrounds, and to embrace that and to find community with other Jewish people, other Asian people, so that they don't feel sort of isolated in their own identity. And I think, speaking of, raising kids with these heritages, my friend last night and I were also talking, like, we were both born and raised in the US and our parents were immigrants, and neither of our parents really just like explicitly taught us about these holidays. Like, no one sat down and said, this is what Lunar New Year is about. This is what a lunar calendar is about. This is how it's different from a Gregorian calendar. Nobody ever told us that. And we speculate, maybe when you grow up in the culture, if you grow up in China or Taiwan or Vietnam, it's just the air you breathe. It's all around you. Sort of how there's cultures in the US that we all sort of just know growing up here without anyone ever teaching us explicitly. And now raising our own kids here, where it's not in the air we breathe and just being in the water, we have to explicitly tell our children about it. Or, or if you don't have family and you want to find that out for yourself, you have to explicitly go out and find it. And we're struggling because nobody told us. So we're, thank God for Google, thank God for like food blogs. We are able to make new family recipes that we can hand down to our kids, and learn about our own selves, just so we can teach our children, because no one taught me so much. And my mother died when I was a teenager, so I think she would have been the one to really impart those traditions and family recipes. So I feel like the burden is on me to make them now, but I think as long as I remove sort of the pressure to be perfect or 100% accurate, like, I fully embrace, like, these are just what our family does. If we have a challah during Lunar New Year with our Holstein fish, that's what it is, because that's what people want to eat in my family.
I think that's the most important thing, is that we make our own traditions. It's okay. What we grew up with, we'll always remember it, but we're creating new traditions with the kids and just trying to grasp at what we remember. And I mean, I can call my mom, and ask her, how do I make this or how do I make that? But in this Google, right? So that's why she said to me, how did you learn how to make jive? Like, she was like criticizing, like, are you sure you did it the right way? I'm like, Mom, I can Google, they have videos too. So yeah, that really has made such a difference, being able to just Google things and look at videos and how things are made.
Yeah, I definitely feel like after having a child, it's definitely made me think about like traditions. And even though I grew up in Asia, I grew up in Singapore to be exact. And you're right, it's all around you. No one really teaches you anything, but all these things because it's just there and you kind of live and breathe it. And I never thought about like how much I knew because I grew up in a country, where there's a Chinese majority and, it's everyone does it. So you kind of just know, right? And now that I live in America, I live in New York, I think about these things and how would I pass these down? How would I pass it down to the next generation? And, and like, to me, Lunar New Year is quintessentially one of the holidays that we Chinese and like Vietnamese and Korean people celebrate. They're very specific to our culture. And that if I want my son to be proud of who he is and his identity, that we must uphold these traditions. And even though they can be new traditions and traditions we, sort of create as part of the holiday, it is important for us to celebrate it with so much pride, just because if we are not proud of our own holiday, how can anyone else outside of us be proud of it? So I think it's really nice to hear that everyone's, sort of starting their own traditions as well. So Jen, what have you Googled that you've started?
So I mean, I think I know how to say Happy New Year in Mandarin, but in my, it makes sense in my head, but when called upon, I'm always like, I don't know if I'm right. So I have Googled pronunciations, I've Googled recipes, I've Googled like the meaning behind why am I making dumplings? They look like what gold pieces used to look like, that little half moon shape. Yeah. And why do we eat a whole fish on New Year's? I Googled how to steam a whole fish, things like that. And then, so one of my daughter's teachers is Chinese, and I'm so appreciative that she brings in like the harvest festival to their classroom. She talks about Lunar New Year in the classroom. They really study it and learn about it. And she's in preschool. So this is like really great that that foundation's in place for her and her classmates. But she had told the kids not to wash your hair on New Year's because it washes the good luck away. So I don't know if this is anyone else's tradition, but
Yes.
I had never heard this. So of course,
My mom,
yeah,
my
I'm
mom
in
is
my
very-
house, and I'm like, nobody gets to take a bath.
Wait a second, you don't wash your hair. I totally wash
You're
my
not
hair
allowed-
on New Year.
My
Why?
mom said you're not allowed to wash your hair, and you're supposed to not shower. But
Definitely do not cut your hair or
yeah,
cut your
definitely do
nails.
not cut your hair.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Your
definitely
hair
no.
that I know.
Yes.
No cleaning too.
No
sweeping,
cleaning.
just sweeping
No
away all the
cleaning.
No
new
cleaning.
luck that was brought from the new year.
You
So,
got
yeah.
it. So I read on the internet, I had to Google this, why we clean before the new year and not like during the new year. This is what Google showed up. The reason we clean before the new year, you want to get rid of all inauspicious spirits that you might have collected over the year to make space for new auspicious spirits.
Do you guys have the thing? My dad texted me on New Year, and unfortunately, my partner had already walked into the house, but he was like, you should, and we have never talked about this growing up. He's like, you should leave the house and walk in the house. So you're the first person in the house. So you're bringing your own luck into this year. But like, have you guys heard about, it's something about the first person who enters your home in the new year has something to do with how lucky you are. I will Google it after this, but I was like, I was working, so I didn't text him back, but I was like, how does that work?
Yeah, how does that work?
I'll Google it.
Let me know. I'm gonna add it on. I know you're not supposed to cut your hair or see the doctor on like New Year's Day or something like that.
I didn't care about the doctor one.
Yeah, no, you guys never like, because okay, so you're not supposed to go to a doctor on New Year's Day because like, I don't know, because you only go to a doctor when you're sick, right? So like, I think that's one of the reasons, but I'm not
I
quite
think they're
sure.
not even open if you're in like Taiwan
yeah,
or probably Singapore.
Yeah. So for those people who don't celebrate Lunar New Year is actually 15 days. And so the reason it for being 15 days is it starts at the new moon, which is no moon at all, and it ends 15 days later with a full moon. So that's why the whole holiday is 15 days long. And back home in Singapore, people would like for 2 weeks, you would, meet your friends and eat out all the time. And I have to share this because I know it's really funny. And I told Tina before, she started laughing because in America it means something else. But in Singapore, whenever we go out, whenever we have like friends and we have a celebratory, like this meal, we would always have a salad called yusang. And it's like a modern invention, except like when I first moved to America, I didn't realize, I didn't know that tossing the salad meant something else. Sorry. So I would invite my friends over and I'd like, hey, like, let's celebrate Lunar New Year together. I'm going to make this salad. It's like a Singapore thing. We're going to toss it all together. We're all going to toss a salad. I didn't know what tossing a salad meant. And like all my friends would die laughing. And like, I had to Urban Dictionary this whole thing and realize like, oh my God. So like when I first moved here and I mostly celebrated with friends, we would toss a salad together and my friends would be like, oh, it's time for annual salad toss.
Geraldine, I'm so glad you mentioned that because that's one of my favorite dishes because my local friend, I moved, but my local friend is from Malaysia. So she's Malaysian Chinese. And she would make that dish. And I'm like, this is the most fantastic dish. And I always film it every year. I'm probably going to do it tomorrow anyways. Like all of us with our chopsticks and just like the higher you toss, the better. But I never translated in my head in English about tossing.
And for those of you watching and don't know what like tossing a salad means, go Urban Dictionary it. I can't tell you, it cannot be repeated. But this is quite more innocent. It's literally like shredded carrots and daikon and like a sweet plum sauce, and every ingredient has a meaning. And we toss the salad together. And every Lunar New Year meal in Malaysia and Singapore starts off with a salad toss. And I can't even say it without laughing anymore.
I never thought I'd hear so much about salad tossing.
Yeah, and this is not a tradition that like we do in Taiwan or Hong Kong or like northern China, or I don't think anywhere else. I think this is like specific to Malaysia and Singapore, and it's really fascinating. And like you have like raw fish, like sashimi sometimes, like because you want like you want to like always have like extra
Yes.
afterwards. And like after my friend told me about it, I like got interested in it. But I've never had one before actually. But for those of you in California, I heard that there was like a Malaysian restaurant that does do it just during the Lunar New Year though.
Yeah,
Tiffany, there is. I'll have to message you where you can get it in Boston too.
Thank you.
I've only made it. I don't know where you could get it in New York. So I've always just made it. And like I have to Google, like, you know, in Singapore, they come in like pre-packets, you know, and you just buy it in the supermarket and, you know, go home and toss a salad with your family. But
I was gonna say, don't Google how to toss a salad.
yeah, no, the real name is Lo Hei. The real name is Yusang.
Just for anyone else out there, don't Google it.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you want to know what the Urban Dictionary, like, you know, meaning of tossing a salad is, but like tossing a salad, Lunar New Year don't usually go together, except unless you're from Singapore, I guess. So yeah, I think that's definitely something that's only done in Singapore and Malaysia, and I believe it was invented by a chef, and then it just caught on like popularity wise, and then it just, you know, next thing you know, there's like countries, like 2 countries tossing a salad. So, you know, New Year traditions get invented, you know, I think that's a new invention, right? So I don't think that that's like a traditional thing that you do in Hong Kong or Taiwan or. So like anyone else has like Angela mentioned earlier that it always had to be a whole fish and a whole chicken. And does anyone else know why that it has to be? And do you do that in Vietnamese culture?
Not that I know of. I did find out the first person in the house thing. I'm going to read it to you. So
Okay.
It is deep-rooted belief that the first person to enter a house at the beginning of a Lunar New Year will have a bearing on the family's fortune throughout that year. Thus, the rich and popular are usually invited to get into a home at that time. So that first person is supposed to bring lisi and then leave, like give you money and get out. So I guess my dad was like, pandemic, just go in your own house, leave and come back with some money. But apparently that is the tradition, and it looks like it's only Vietnamese. It's like only found in Vietnamese Lunar New Year.
And Vietnamese Lunar New Year is actually called Tet, right?
That, yeah.
And those of you who think it's Lunar New Year, actually, I think the Chinese call it Zhongqiu Jie, which means Spring Festival. And it's actually, I think traditionally, China was an agricultural country, and like this is to celebrate the start of harvest season, if I'm correct. But
that's the same with Vietnamese too. So you have that in the Lunar New Year, and then you have another that, so there's an autumn festival also.
oh, so there's an autumn festival as well. I know is our autumn festival the mooncake one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
So
that one is
there's I
Zhongqiu Jie,
remember
which
it
is
by like food. It's not. Sorry, Tiffany, you're gonna say something?
sorry. So the one Zhongqiu Jie is like the Mid-Autumn Moon Festival, which is what you mentioned, and Trinjie, which is the Spring Festival, is Lunar New Year.
Oh, so did I get it wrong?
It's
My
okay.
My Mandarin is pretty bad.
So it is the Spring Festival, which is just Tin and then Jie for festival. But I can't say it in Cantonese, so ask Tina or Angela to.
春季.
Chunji. I can't speak Taiwanese very well, even though my husband is Taiwanese. I guess I could call my mother-in-law in from outside.
I actually have an answer. I don't know. This is what my dad told me. Again,
Okay.
I guess it's different for every culture. But the whole steamed fish, like, and also like a whole chicken, also has to have like the whole entire chicken with the head and the neck
Yeah.
and the butt. Apparently, there's a Chinese phrase. It's called Yao Tao Yao Mei. So it means it has the beginning and it has an end. So it kind of like, in a way, like full life or like wholeness, cycles, like something about roundness, togetherness kind of thing, that I can gather. That's what he told me.
Right, I agree, Tina, because if you translate it, Yao Tao Yao Mei is like Tao is like head, beginning, right? And
Yeah.
Mei it could be translated to tail and the end, right? So yeah, definitely, that's how I was taught about it too.
Okay, that's what I was told, but I don't know if my family follows it because I'm pretty sure our chickens never had heads on them.
Ours
Do you know for the fish, you need to save one for the next year. Like you have one during Lunar New Year's Eve, but you save one for the following year so that you can like 年年有余, so you can like have extra afterwards. You can't
do you
eat
have
all
two
of the
fish?
fish. Usually we just make two and then save one, but you could also
You don't eat the second fish?
No.
So what do you do with the second fish? You throw it out?
No, you eat it like in the new year. You need to like make them both.
You have to wait 2 days. Like my family waits 2 days because there's New Year's Eve and then there's New Year's Day and then there's the second day of New Year's, which they call Hoilin, which is called, like, I guess easily translated to opening the new year, I guess. And that's the day they eat the second fish. That's, at least in my family, that's the only time you can eat the second fish.
Because the first day you're supposed to eat vegetarian, so you can't eat it the first day anyways. And then the second day you can eat it.
I have done everything wrong this year, guys.
Everything. There is no right or wrong. I definitely ate both fish.
My dad explicitly says, do not touch that fish. And we're like, okay. Don't even
eat a leftover fish. Like,
yeah. As a child, I learned that second fish was not for me.
It's on the table. The fish is on the table.
Fish the next day isn't good. It's fishy.
Like, you can't eat this one.
Yes, they say you can't eat this one, but it's on the table. So just remember not to eat it because it counts as one of the dishes. Because for New Year's Eve, we have like, you could either have 6 dishes or 8 dishes. Never 7.
8 dishes.
Yeah, never 7 because 7 means spirits or ghosts. That's not a good number. So it has to be either 6 dishes or 8. And they're like, it's just a plate number for them, so they don't have to make something extra. I don't know.
Yeah, you definitely can't have 4 dishes. 4 dishes would be really bad.
Yeah.
So of those of you who don't know, 4 is very similar sounding to the word death in Chinese and Mandarin, I think, and that's why in our culture we don't like anything 4. Is that the same in Vietnam? Or like, well, you're not in Vietnam, but like, is that
no, they don't sound the same at all. There's not a thing with the number 4. There is the thing, we can't have 7.
Can have 7.
8 is always the best, but I again think we inherited that from Chinese culture. Like,
yeah,
all of my family's license plates, they all like got custom personalized ones with 8s on them. Like, it was very important that they have 8s on them. So I don't think we have the same thing with 4, but a definite affinity for infinity.
I love that. I know. So eight actually, for those of you who don't know what eight traditionally in Mandarin sounds, or Cantonese sounds like the word prosperity. So it's got to do with money. I think that a lot of I guess I'm thinking about this like agriculture. If they were agricultural countries, right, before, so you depend on this harvest for money, right? So it's for your livelihood, really. So I guess there's a lot of this like common theme of like prosperity in that in this holiday, really, because it's your livelihood. It's how you're going to survive for the whole year. And before I used to think like, oh man, Chinese people just like money, right? But now that I think about it harder, it's probably more like for survival than it is for like the love of money and rolling in dough. That makes more sense to me now. And I'm glad we're having this, like, it's a realization I just had. But 8 is for prosperity, and I know 9 is for longevity. So does anyone do 9 dishes, or is that too much?
You can do 9. 9 is good too. 9 is also a good number.
9 is a good number. So 7 is bad, 8 is good, 9 is good. Definitely not 4. I'm pretty sure I made 4 dishes, guys.
I'm sure you were fine. You could just add like I'm sure you made some side or like rice or something and count that as like an additional.
So I got to 5.
I'm sure that's
My
fine.
sister did that. She goes, uh-oh, she shot me a picture. She made 4 dishes, but then she put the rice in the middle. She goes, that's 5.
So the other thing that I remember, it's always lying around the house, was like nian gao, which is sticky rice mochi cake. It's round. And I know we ate nian gao, and nian gao literally just translates to your cake, I think, right? For like stickiness and togetherness. And I was wondering, like, if all of you do that, is that like sticky rice is like a thing?
Yeah, in Vietnamese culture, there's bánh which is, I don't think it's the exact same. It's usually glutinous sticky rice with pork and mung bean, and then it's wrapped in lotus leaf typically. I think
so it's savory.
Yeah, it's savory. It's not sweet. It's savory, but that's very traditional Lunar New Year. Like this year, so I'm going on Sunday to see my family because that's the only day we could get together. And that was like the one thing all of the adults wanted. They were like, pick up the bánh. That's the only thing we need to be lucky. Yeah, we have that too.
How?
We eat the meal like so I realize this all across our cultures, we all eat it differently. So I'm interested in how you guys eat it, because how we always ate it was we slice it and we pan fry it. But now there was my Malaysian Chinese friend, they don't eat it like that. They sandwich it between sweet potato slices or taro, and then they dip it in egg, and then they pan fry the whole thing. So it's like a sandwich, like a little mini sandwich. And I've been enjoying that version of it too. So that's interesting. How do you guys eat yours?
We actually also slice it. It's actually not round. My family made it in a pan, and then they cut it into slices. But we do pan fry it, but we pan fry it with egg.
Yep, I've heard. Yep.
Yeah, but now I never heard of it with the taro, like as a sandwich, but it was just with the egg. Yeah.
Yeah, my in-laws make it really good.
I think
we also eat it with egg.
It's all, and I don't know why is it always pan fried, because I just had some earlier that someone made it for us, and like it was really soft and like quite delicious without being like fried again. But growing up, I remember they would wait for it to dry out and like cutting it and frying it with egg. Jen, did you ever eat nian gao growing up?
I can't recall it at all. Maybe someone in my family just didn't like it and we never had it. So most of my Lunar New Year meal memories occurred in a restaurant. There was our go-to place near where we grew up, and we would just meet family and just have big banquet dinners that lasted forever. Probably had 18 dishes instead of just 8. But I've seen pictures like on blogs and on the internet, like recipes to make it's like round and kind of brownish, right? There's a version and you can cut, yeah. And I have not tried to make it. I did try to make like the steamed prosperity cake, like you can put them in like little vessels and they puff up with like raisins on top and they're supposed to blossom. Mine failed. I think we are screwing up a few things, so there's not going to be a lot of prosperity in this household this year. I only had 3 dishes, guys. And my prosperity cake was like, it did not work.
I actually really
also attempted prosperity cake for the first time this year.
How did that go?
It went better than Jen's possibly, but it also did not do the like smiley thing where it like breaks apart. Like it's supposed to split open, and it only it rised though, which is the really important part because like it's called Fagao because it's supposed to rise for good fortune. And the recipe that I have is from my mom, and it's very traditional. It only uses yeast, and you're not allowed to use baking soda or baking powder. And it has to like, you have to proof it 2 times. And I was like super nervous it wasn't gonna actually rise. And my sister was like next to me. She was like, I would not have volunteered to do this if I were you. And I was like, oh, wonderful. So I would count it as like pseudo successful.
I get mine from the Chinese bakery in Chinatown, and so it's very delicious and already
You are much smarter than I.
Blossomed. I do know that they have pre-mixes that they sell in the Chinese, like their the Hong Kong supermarkets of America. They do sell like a pre-made cake, like a cake mix. And I've never bought it because I can't read Mandarin. So I would buy it and like on instructions on the back are in Mandarin. So, it would be useless for me. But I know they sell it in a pre-mix, but I'll be interested in trying to, if you guys have a successful recipe, definitely share it. I would be interested in making it once.
I don't think there was anything wrong with the recipe that I tried. Mine was from the blog The Walks of Life, WOKS, Walks of Life, which is where most of my Chinese recipes kind of come from. I don't think there was anything wrong with the recipe. I think it was my yeast. Like, I don't think the yeast worked properly. It was maybe a little too old and had lost some of its potency. So it wasn't really foamy enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try again next year.
Is it made with rice flour?
So the recipe I used, you soak the rice overnight, like just regular uncooked rice. So you soak it in water and then drain it and use like a blender and mix it with the activated yeast. Like you blend it with the yeast. Then you add a little flour, I believe some sugar and baking powder. And then you I don't remember the exact recipe, but like it starts with soaking uncooked rice, activating your yeast, blending that together, and then you add flour, sugar, and then let it proof. And then I think you stir in like the baking soda, maybe a little salt and like food coloring. So it looks like it's like very runny batter.
Oh.
And it's supposed to get fluffy and super airy, and then crack open on the top, like it looks like kind of almost like a mushroom.
Yeah, it looks like a muffin, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think mine was a little too dry when I finished.
Mine was very dense.
I mean, you went the
it
old
normally
school.
tastes kind of dense.
Hardcore grinding the rice, because I've been looking at recipes using just the rice flour that's already made. I have a Vitamix, which made it very easy. I was like, do I want to grind my own rice flour today? No.
I've never attempted it, but I always thought it was just rice flour. I didn't know it was that hardcore that you had to soak rice the night before. So I wanted to ask everyone what Lunar New Year really means to you. I guess this is like a more personal question. I guess for me, I like Lunar New Year has taken on a new meaning, and it's you know, it's about me being proud of my identity and my like culture, and that's why I want to hold Lunar New Year traditions more strongly than I think I did before. And so what does Lunar New Year mean to all of you? And then what's your favorite, like, how do you say, like, you know, greet us in your Lunar New Year? I think it's gone over an hour now, so we're gonna wrap it up with this, and you know, just share with us personally what Lunar New Year means to you, and you know, how you want to carry on your traditions. And with that, I'm going to say Gong Si Fa Chai. That's how you say it in Mandarin. And my dad is Teochew, which is Chu Zhao Yan. And in Teochew, we say Xing Jia Jui, which actually means, I think, family and togetherness. So I'm going to hand it off to Angela, what Lunar New Year means to you. And
So what we say is, you know, obviously, Gong Hei Fa Choi is one of the most popular, and then San Ni Fai Lao. And just like Chris was saying, we say all the other blessings and other, you know, you wish this and you wish that, health, you know, a lot of the popular things. I think for me, Lunar New Year has always meant family togetherness and celebrating family. But now, having my own family, I feel the same way as you, Geraldine, that it's about honoring our traditions and teaching our kids where they're coming from. And I feel like it's so much more important to me now, more than ever. You know, growing up, you just like, okay, you just, as a kid, you go along with it and you get to eat, you get money, it's great, you know? But now, like, every little step I do, I have an explanation. I don't know if they care, the kids, but I'm still telling them. And I'm like, this is why we're doing this. And this is why I'm making this. And, you know, this is why you have to do this. And so I just want, you know, like, I just want to educate them and just have them remember, because growing up here, this is not immersed. Like the way you were growing up is totally different, right, Geraldine? Like, it's all around you. And me, like, I had been back to Hong Kong to visit my family during the New Year's, and it's the most amazing experience ever. It's like they take a whole month off, you know. It's here, you know, we don't get a day off, you know, so it's very different. So I think that's why I want them to remember, and to, you know, just to, like, you know, have them always know where they're coming from, even though they're growing up here and they were born here.
I would say the same thing along the same lines. Family is my favorite part of it, but a connection to roots that weren't planted in the same place as me, like especially being first gen, it feels like, as we were talking about earlier, our parents were so immersed in it, like they didn't have to think about why they did these things and why they were so fun. And I think especially like in the current climate and all of the incidents surrounding and happening to Asian Americans and Asian people everywhere, it's just like being proud of who we are is so important now in educating people about like why we love who we are in our culture. And we have such rich culture and history. So I think that's important. I'm also really afraid of having kids and not being able to pass on the things that I loved as a child. And like all of my grandparents are passed now. So it's like, I'm trying to get as much as I can out of my parents. Like, oh, I have to remember and write down all of these things that we do and remember how to make things so that it can be carried on, because I don't want it to be erased. And in Vietnamese, Chúc mừng năm mới is how you say Happy New Year.
So same like Geraldine and Chris and Angela, and I'm sure all of us here, you know, it's about embracing our community, our culture, keeping those traditions sort of alive and well in a environment that's not about us, you know, only about us. And I think having kids really makes you think about that, and the whole idea of things passing from one generation to another and the continuation of family and family traditions. So that's definitely my big motivator. And what I love about Lunar New Year is just the family aspect and being together and feeling connected to community. And yeah, and think it's helpful to learn along with my children, because I think they need to see that I don't know everything as well, and make it not a shameful thing, and just be like, we're never too old to learn about ourselves and about our own cultures, and to make those things make sense for us. And I'm going to try to say Gong Xi Fa Chai. Happy New Year to all of you.
That sounded perfect to me, Jen.
Yeah, I certainly cannot do better. So, yeah, I also think the sort of, most important part of Lunar New Year is family and being connected to our culture and community. And really, I think being able to learn from our parents, and I think that for them to be able to pass on is really important to them. And so I think that it's being able to like still have some of these traditions in a place where it's really hard when there's no one else around you celebrating. And like definitely growing up, like no one else celebrated Lunar New Year. You don't get the day off for school or anything like that. And I think I was just very lucky because of the pandemic to be able to work from home, to be able to come home for Lunar New Year. And I think that's like something you take for granted when you're, in Hong Kong or Taiwan or mainland China or Vietnam, to be able to celebrate that. And like, I think that like the other part I really enjoy is like the decorating, which I don't think we like really spoke about. And my mom really likes to write the calligraphy. And so like putting these up around the house growing up was also really fun. And we usually do them upside down for the homophone, because the word for arrive and for upside down are like the same sound. And a lot of our like prosperous foods are like related to how they sound. Yes.
That's some very beautiful calligraphy. I have to admit, I don't know if I remember. I took Mandarin as a second language growing up, and it wasn't something we spoke at home. So I knew that that meant folk, right? Fu.
Mm-hmm. Fu, yeah. So this is fu, so fu dao, which means like fu is arrived.
Yeah.
Or is here.
And fu means prosperity, right?
Yeah, it means good fortune.
Good fortune. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I know Tina made some actually some knitted Chinese, like, sorry, Lunar New Year decorations. I have to admit, growing up, everyone's right. Like now it's not all around me and I am seeking it out. Growing up, we would get 2 days off from school. Offices are closed for like 4 or 5 days. In Singapore, we have less days, I think, because we're a multicultural country, kind of like America. So they actually give like the same amount of holidays per each culture. So in Singapore, you only get 2 days. But I know in Vietnam, China, Hong Kong, it's actually 2 weeks. You get the full 2 weeks. Yeah. So that's a really interesting topic. I think not having it around me and now like consciously seeking it out versus growing up not having, like, I never had to think about representation. I never had to think about like, these cultures and traditions. They're just everywhere and everyone's doing it. So I never had to think about these things. And I think now that I have a son and go in an environment where I am the minority, I think about seeking out these things more and how is my son's experience going to be so different from mine? Because he's going to grow up as a minority, and I don't know what that was like. I don't know what that would be like, and not being able to help him through, I don't know, identity issues and stuff like that. Things that I didn't have to think about growing up because I grew up as a majority. So Tina, show us your show us your decorations.
Oh no, I actually have them in a different room. Of course, because I brought them with me to New Jersey, and then I forgot to take them out of my bag. But I'll go grab them. But I'll just want to talk about a little bit about what Lunar New Year means to me now.
Yes, please.
And as everyone said, it's a lot about family. And this was the first Lunar New Year I spent without my grandmother. She just passed last year. And for me, it's a way to connect with her, especially this year. It feels very, very hard to realize that we can't just call her or ask her how to do something. It became really real to me, my mom and my sister, that she wasn't really there. But another thing is just connecting with my culture and being able to show my parents that we are proud of our culture, because I feel like growing up in America, they thought we would just become westernized and kind of forget our roots and who they are and where they came from. And being able to show my dad, especially because he's really into history and his roots, being able to show him that I didn't forget and that I am very proud of being Chinese, and being a part of his culture, his world, whatever that means, has been very eye-opening to the both of us. I think I see the pride in him for being proud in us for not forgetting, when we're constantly being told by American society to kind of forget who we are, and erase our identities. So that's something that I am happy to keep celebrating Lunar New Year, even though it's been my favorite holiday for my whole entire life. For them to know that we didn't forget and that we want to continue these traditions. We don't want to forget them. And I think that's important for them.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that all of us feel the same. And I'm sure us making this video will help everyone else who's celebrating it be proud of it as well. Or for those who want to learn more about our culture, to really watch this and kind of try and understand and see the diversity there is in the Asian community. I think we're running an hour and a half, so we'll have to wrap it up. But I know this is not the end of our celebration, and I want to thank everyone who took the time out to do this little talk with me, and I appreciate all of you very, very much. And Happy New Year, Gong Xi Fa Chai, Xin Jia Ju Yi, and I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Go Hei Fa Chai. Happy New Year.
Happy
新
New
年
Year.
快乐！
Okay, Pacha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.